All right. um, Thank you, Andrew, for letting me know you're watching. I don't know. I didn't know how many people come out to these. I know that not a whole lot of people come to the live streams, and that's okay. I'm doing it more of a practice for myself about presenting, being in front of the camera, pacing myself, enunciating properly, all of those fun things. But on top of that, I want to create content that is relevant, that's interesting, and that's exciting, especially as we move forward with the launch of the game and the expansion. Uh, we got some really cool news over the past few weeks. There's been a lot of interested parties reaching out from different parts of the world that I didn't expect to happen so soon. So, if you, hey Rob, nice. Are you here as well? Actually, Rob, this is Asad. Glad to see you and messaging. Rob is a store owner over in BC, so I'm really excited you're going to be picking up Genesis and trying to create a community out that way, and we'll help and support you every step of the way. So what are we talking about this week? This week I'm actually using these slide decks, these Friday presentations, as a way to kind of bring together my experiences of designing a collectible card game. There's not a lot of content out there when it comes to designing hobby games. I found that there's so much content when it comes to creating board games, creating RPGs even. But when it comes to making these collectible card games, there's a lot of closed doors. There's a lot of misinformation, and I stumbled a lot designing Genesis, and I'm still stumbling now. Andrew, who's watching on Twitch, you'll know that even in Future League, and when we bring the communities together, there's a lot of mistakes that happen every time we design cards, every time we put out new ideas, and there's a lot of great debates that come out of those. So I'm still learning along the way, and I wanted to present some of my learning. So every Friday, I'm going to be doing these talks where I do present some of my learnings. So this week we're talking about essential experience. I'm going to be talking about what it is, how we implemented it, and why it's important for game design. So the other thing, also at the end of the stream, I'm going to be opening some packs on camera, and we'll, go through those cards together and be excited. But then also we'll give those packs away to some people. So we'll go from there. Before I jump into all this, huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. Thank you for every step of the way. Next month's Patreon package will include that full art underworld knowledge, which looks absolutely amazing. You finally can see what's happening in this artwork. It's way more than what you see on just the regular printed card. So getting the full art is going to look amazing. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Andrew, Gunther, Hill, Steven, Steve-O, and Will, for being your top tier supporters, helping us through the pandemic. It's been a really difficult year. Yesterday, I believe, marked the 1 year anniversary from when COVID was marked as a pandemic. So it's been a very trying times, but we got through a lot of it, and Genesis has grown a lot thanks to everyone's support. And especially, I want to give a special shout out to Will, because Will came up to me really early in the days of pandemic and was saying, I'm a Patreon supporter. I'm giving you, at the time, the top tier was $20. And he's like, I want to do more. How can I do more? And he was the one who really showed me that there is a big community of people who, yes, they may not be contributing on the game design, or at that time, Future League wasn't very popular, but they became very strong contributors for Patreon. And I think from there, we grew into having an amazing group. So everyone who's part of Patreon, not just these top tiers, but everyone, thank you so much for your support. So if you want to be part of that, join us at patreon.com/GenesisBOC. And then some last announcements before we jump into this. So Future League's happening tonight at 7 p.m. on Tabletop Simulator. If you want to come test out some new cards, I know Alex has put up some new cards in Future League. If you don't know what Future League is, it's our sandbox testing environment. It's where we give a bunch of players the opportunity, and it doesn't matter if you're brand new to the game, haven't even played the game yet, we'll get you set up as long as you have Tabletop Simulator. And you can come and test out the cards, give your feedback, and help the future of the game be as healthy as possible. For everyone who participates in this month's Patreon Future League work, you'll be getting that Primordial Force. I think I actually gave out the Primordial Force. It's next month that I need to set up, which Alex and I have gone over what that's going to be. So it might be a little bit of a surprise to some people. But Future League's happening tonight, 7 p.m. on Tabletop Simulator. You can join the Discord. It should be in the link in the description part of this live stream. And then the next Future League tournament's happening on the 20th. We will be live streaming that. It'll be a great event. You can go to tabletop.to to sign up for it. But I love the Future League events. And then on April the 5th, we're going to be having our next roundtable. These used to be called town halls. We're changing now to roundtables, where the idea is I'll pitch a conversation topic and just everyone can chat about it. And we exhaust that topic and we go to the next topic. And these are more meta, high-level discussions about the game, the community. So I'm really excited about the next roundtable meeting. That'll be happening on April 5th. That's on Zoom. I'll create the meeting invite soon. So if you're interested, you can be part of that as well. All right, let's talk about the essential experience. Where do you start? So I'm talking about the very beginning, when you're sitting there one day and you decide, I want to make a game. So some of the things I think about, like when I think about when I started making Genesis, it's what sparked my interest. Why did I decide to make a game? And a lot of that became, like a lot of people in my youth, I played a lot of games. And this was a central point of my life, and I wanted to contribute to that landscape. But instead of going down the route of being competitive or a really advocate player, becoming a fan, I thought it would be a lot more interesting to put my hat in the ring and design games to bring some of my ideas to life. And I decided to go with CCGs because that was an essential thing of my life growing up. I played collectible card games for my entire life, and that was a big portion of what I was obsessed about. So part of it is you got to combine what you're passionate about, what you're excited about, with what you know a lot about. Now, I could have done game design in the board game space, but I didn't play a lot of board games growing up. I could have done game design in the video game space. I did play a lot of video games, but I wasn't the concept of how it all kind of flowed together didn't click in my head as easily as a collectible card game did. So I stuck with what I knew and what I was passionate about. And those two things kind of came together. The other thing I see people do when they're starting game design is they take a concept that's already out there and try to improve on it. I did this myself. I went to a murder mystery party once, and though the sushi there was pretty good and some of the food was nice and the people were great, the game itself I felt was very lackluster. I didn't enjoy that style of murder mystery. Not saying that it's a bad style, it just wasn't right for me. So I thought, okay, let's try to improve this. Let's do a little twist. Let's make it a little bit different. So I did this idea of instead of being assigned a role, you played as yourself, and the murder mystery happened as a layer on top of a regular party. So you could be having a normal dinner party, and on top of it, you're doing this murder mystery. So everyone's given these assignments, and they're doing these roles and doing all this cool stuff. And at the end, someone is murdered because the murderer did a particular act, like take a photo with someone, or give someone a drink that they had to consume, right? So you did these mock murder type of things, and then at the end, someone was announced as like, oh, you were murdered. Now you have to retrace your steps throughout the party to figure out who murdered you. And then they became the detective investigating everyone. And it was a lot of fun. But I don't like this idea of trying to improve on someone else's work. Don't design a game. Don't start this process of designing a game because you want to improve on someone else's work, because the passion, the drive usually runs out. Eventually you hit a wall and you don't want to move forward because you just don't have the incentive to do it, right? A good enough version's already out there. So what is your driving factor? So when I put these things together, I was like, I love games. I know a lot about collectible card games, and I wanted to improve on aspects, but like that wasn't my driving factor. So I really had to come down to what is the purpose of the game. And this was the one thing that brought all of those learnings together under one guiding factor. And this was the essential experience. So, what is the purpose of a game as a whole? It's to provide an interactive experience. So, this is very different than other forms of entertainment. If you were to take all of your entertainment spheres, like watching TV, watching movies, playing games, or cooking, or whatever entertains you, and you try to narrow down what is a game. Well, it's an interactive entertainment experience. Games wouldn't be games if you couldn't make decisions along the way, decisions that were uniquely yours. And games wouldn't be games if they weren't part of that entertainment space. So I I found those things together, and once I figured out what my essential experience was for Genesis, all these things started to tie together. So let's okay. Before I jump into this, I see a lot of messages come in. I want to kind of address some of these because otherwise I'm gonna get distracted. But so yep, Andrew, I'm very excited about getting Genesis on the Pacific Northwest. It's gonna be really cool. I think we have stores that are interested in Oregon, in California and Nevada, Washington State, and BC now. So all along that side, I think we're going to see a lot of stores start popping up. And you can even, once we get more and more stores in, we'll see them show up in the store finder, which is really cool. Joseph, really great seeing you on the Discord conversation. Let me know what your Discord handle is. I'd love to know who I'm actually talking to. Alex, thanks for joining. As always, your huge support, so thank you so much. Did I play chess and Magic growing up? I played chess growing up. I did really love it. There was some unique factors to it. But the one of the big influencers, which is up on the screen, is Warhammer 40k. That was actually a bigger influence than chess when it came to the design of Genesis. And I'll go into that in a little bit. So I'm really excited, Rob, that your staff's excited about the game. I will be sending out a sample copy out to your store so you can get people to start trying out in your area very soon. Okay, Captain Stark, nice to meet you. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about essential experiences. What is your game's essential experience? Now, a lot of people assume that since it's a game, the essential experience must be fun. That's the thing you have to focus around. That's the thing everyone should feel when they're playing your game. They have to have fun playing your game. But that's not necessarily true. Not every game is focused around a sense of what is fun for the players. Actually, some games very adamantly focus on what's not fun for the players. If you look at a game, there was... I can't remember the video game off the top of my head. I want to say Darkstalkers, but that's not it. That's a fighting game. But there was someone in the comment, tell me, but there was this one video game that was designed to be insanely difficult to play, and the core essential experience was that frustration. They wanted you to... Dark Souls, there we go. Thank you, Brad. So that game was very much focused around making people frustrated and having a difficult time. But within that difficulty, people found entertainment. Entertainment and fun is not necessarily correlated. They're not one-to-one. So there was this one game that I saw. It was on Steam. I didn't play it, but I saw a good review about it. And it was a very, very basic game. All it was you were this one square, and you could go up, left, or right, and it was just a scrolling analog. So as you moved up, you saw other squares appear. And every time you moved towards the squares, they would run away. And it was just like a 2-minute game or a 3-minute game that just did this. And the message was very clear. It's really sad being lonely. Like when you are there and you're walking through life and there are people around you, but every time you try to get close to people, they run away from you. It's a very difficult feeling. And the music played into it very, very well. Now, it's kind of like the movie industry or any of these entertainment industries. There's niche spaces, and not the ones that get very popular are the ones that stick towards mainstream. People don't want to feel sad, lonely, frustrated all the time. So the thing that the people do love is that the dopamine rush of what's fun, what's entertaining, and solving and fun games and these like skill challenging things that help you hit a higher tier. These are the things that people really enjoy, and these become mainstream. But there are other games that do talk about other essential experiences. So, um, okay, sorry. Rob put up the question, what is the Genesis Discord? I'll get that up into the chat soon. So, when you think about what your essential experience is, you have to recognize that not all the time is about fun. And it's about a core idea that you're trying to present to the players. It's a feeling you want them to feel when they play the game. So when I was going through this process, I actually looked at what other game I looked at. And I wrote cheese here, but I meant chess. So that's on me. But chess, the idea there is being the commander. Having your army, making the difficult calls, trying to figure out what's your best move. It was supposed to be an analogy of war, right? So it's not a game about fun. It's a game about that mental dexterity, and trying to figure out what is the best move at any given point. When people are playing chess, while they're playing the game, you don't see that look of entertainment on their face. When they win, yes, they're elated, they enjoy it, but it's a puzzle that they're trying to solve, an interactive puzzle with their opponent. Snakes and Ladders, if you don't know, it was actually supposed to be an analogy of moving through your life, and making spiritual decisions that would elevate you towards heaven or decline you towards hell. And the idea was, when you're rolling your dice, it's like living your day to day. It's mundane, it's a very easy act to do, and you're not always in control on how far you move along in your life. But you're given these moral decisions, and if you choose the right one, you'll get elevated up. If you choose the wrong one, you descend. And it was a lot more about proposing the story of what is morality, what is the spiritual elevation of humanity. It got simplified, and now it's shoots or ladders or whatever you want to call it, and kids play it and not understanding what that bigger story was. But games were used as an analogy for philosophical and moral questions. So what is Genesis essential experience? What is the core thing we want the players to feel every step of the way? Every time you play the game and you put your champion down and you're fighting, what do we want you to feel? We want you to feel that tension, that frustration, that fear, but also excitement of being in an arena, battling for your life every step of the way. So the inspiration of Genesis comes from a few different places. One of them came from this character, Lilith, from Warhammer 40k. She was a gladiator pit fighter who, in gameplay, was extremely difficult to take down, and in hand-to-hand combat, she usually always won. It was really, really difficult to beat her. And she was an interesting character because you'd have this tiny little model facing against these giant, like, tanks of models, and she would just knock them down easily. And I like this idea of being these superhuman warriors. I also got some inspiration from Magic, and during their Odyssey block, they had a character named Chainer, and Chainer was a pit fighter. He was a summoner that could bring forward his nightmares, but he was also specialized in fighting in the pits. And like that feeling of what is it to fight for your life. And that's also the thing we see in like movies like Gladiator, and that tension, that fear, but also the drive, the desire to push yourself and get better, fight after fight, so that the next time when you find yourself in the arena, you don't lose, that you win the next battle. And those are really cool concepts. So those were the things that those are the things that are really interesting when I was designing Genesis and moving it forward. So this is one of the things that we write in bold. We remind ourselves all the time that the essential experience here is to create that pit fight feel. So the pit fight itself, there is three things that we kind of pivot around when it comes to that pit fight experience. One of them is start strong, struggle later. This is, I think it's ingrained in all the game designers that the game itself needs to have this feeling that when you come into the fight, you are at your full power, you are as strong as you can possibly be. But when the fight starts grinding down near the end, that's when you're, throwing left hooks, you're throwing punches, you're hitting them with your staff, you're doing things that you wouldn't have done early on in the game because early on you had the resources. You want to defeat them before you run out of resources. But once you run out of resources, what are your options? So it also played into the pit fight feel because when I think of people coming together to fight against each other, there's a good moment of this in Supernatural and in Angel. We saw this in Thor Ragnarok. Like, yes, they're a little defeated from being trapped in cages, but once they come into the fight, you're coming in at as much full power as you possibly can. And you're coming in there to win, right? So you're going to come in at your full strength and you're going to get weaker as the battle kind of goes on. The other thing we found was in a pit fight feel, you're always going to find a way to swing a punch. Until you can't anymore, till the moment where you've lost, you're always going to be trying to swing a punch. So that's why we had to give all champions an opportunity to have an option at any given moment. Now, there are cards that limit options and remove things, but we try our best to design the game in such a way that we don't create things like stun lock. That came up in Future League recently, where a lot of champions, or a lot of times the game would get to a point where the player couldn't do anything because they're just locked into a place round after round after round. So now we pivoted those cards to give champions a way out. They can sacrifice a little bit of their timeline, and if they do, they aren't locked in anymore. And that really fixed this idea that you as a champion always have options. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about here was gaining resources. This is actually one of my biggest regrets when it came to designing the game. Every time we created cards that gave players resources, it reset the clock. It allowed them to go back a few rounds when they had a few more resources at their disposal. So aura games, things like Aura Surge, Elemental Mastery, these are cards that I don't know how I feel about them fitting in that feel of a pit fight. Now, there are moments in a fight where you get a second wind, and those are kind of cool endurance moments. And that's why I like Adrenaline, because Adrenaline, it doesn't give you that feeling of this is me resetting the clock. It's I just got a second wind for this round. But cards that give aura, cards that draw you more cards, these are things that feel like they reset the clock. And these are things that if I were to go back, I would not have added these type of cards to the game at all. But now that they're out there, we have to counterbalance them in a lot of approaches. And then the other part to it, and this is the thing that I think a lot of people, when they first start being part of the process of Future League or even designing cards, they want to mitigate some of the pain about the game. Energy being a big proponent. So energy is the other resource. You pay energy by discarding cards off the top of your deck, but there's no way of getting those cards back. And at first, people feel like, oh, this is really hurtful because I lose these cards. I can never get them back. And I don't want to pay cards that make me lose my cards. But it's a choice, right? It's a sacrifice that you're making. You want to gain advantage in the current moment by sacrificing moments in the future. And this is where I think energy actually played in really well into the pit fight experience. If in the pit fight experience, you were given a tool that could give you a momentary boost, but it shortened the fight by a little bit, then you'd probably take that risk if it could give you the win before the fight was over. So the one thing I wanted to look at was like energy should hurt when you go to play it. It should not be an emotional reprieve in the game. It should be a thing that should pain you. Now we've adjusted energy a lot, and now it's actually a way, if you spend enough of it, you will lose the game, and that's the way it should have always been. But energy should always feel like a pain, and that's the thing that every time a game designer kind of proposes a way to mitigate that, I'm like, no. I think energy works really well as a system right now. Yeah, so these are kind of, this is a very brief idea of the essential experience. This talk I wanted to do, well, a little bit shorter than the other ones, uh, but I will be next week bringing in more talks that are a little bit longer, a little bit more content, and we'll go from there. But where did this idea come from? When I first started doing game design, I had a lot of books that were proposed to me. A lot of them that I bought, I read through, and none of them felt very useful except for this one, The Art of Game Design. I really love this book. So if you are deciding to do any game design work, this is the book I recommend. It's uh, it works kind of like a textbook. There's a lot of good leading questions that can help you think of things you want to do, and also it hits on a lot of topics that I didn't think of ahead of time. So this is probably my favorite book that I would recommend to anyone. But the first thing they talk about is the essential experience. You need to know what the feeling is that you want your players to have when they go through your game. So that's we'll get into the pack opening in a little bit. I have questions and answers. If you have any questions, leave them in the chat. But I'm gonna go through here. Joseph, I will get your winnings from the tournament to you as soon as possible. I've been a little busy, and hopefully soon you'll see why. And Andrew, Ninja, Gaiden, Black, steep learning curve. Yeah, so games with a steep learning curve, they they're very interesting because I see them as kind of like there is a high level of elation and gratification when you feel like you can achieve that moment. It's like anything in life. I used to be a very active runner. You won't see that on my face and body now. I gained a lot of weight during COVID, but I used to be a very active runner, and my goal was to do a mile in less than 7 minutes, which I know isn't the most absurd thing, but it was a very high accomplishment for me. And the moment I got that, hit that goal and accomplished it, I felt really great about myself. And sometimes that's what games are trying to do. It's not about the process; it's about the destination. And once you hit that point of accomplishment, it's a really really good feeling. I mean, puzzles are key for this, right? I don't think people would get obsessed with puzzles if they didn't feel that high level of that dopamine rush, that elation from accomplishing the puzzle. But I'm not a big puzzle person. I remember, like, that's part of the reason why I did my degree in computer science. I love coding. I find coding purely about puzzle solving, and I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't get that same rush as a lot of developers when they solved their puzzle, when they got to a point where they knew the answer of what they were trying to do. Um, Hearthstone out of the question of making this game. But yeah, any new things you want to add to the game in the future? There's a lot of things I want to add, but I think the biggest thing I want to add is multiple perspectives. I want a good, solid game design team to follow through with the initial ideas I have put in place. Of this is a pit fight experience. It's a tactical game, and there's definitely a lot of struggles to it. And having, if I'm the only person who's designing it, I think it becomes very singular. Having multiple opinions come in is really going to be key. And sorry, and I think we've had some great people come onto the project and create some really really cool ideas. I know if you look at Rays, you'll see a lot the author of the cards on at the bottom right corner. A lot of the cards that were designed by John Rayner. They're very very unique, a very different approach than anyone else. Things from Carl Lilly, he designed things that were very old ideas republished into the Genesis environment, and it created a very different landscape. So I really like those ideas. I know moving forward, you'll see a lot of cards published by Alex Miller. And he comes in with a really great idea of how competitive, how casual, how multiplayer should feel like. And all of a sudden, with multiple game designers, you'll feel a lot of different perspectives, and that'll create a very rich tapestry for the game to grow. Hey, JC, thanks for joining. Yeah, you made some awesome cards. I'm gonna put it out there. Lightless is definitely one of my favorite cards in Rays now. After kind of not focusing on it for a long time, but playing it that one time in the tournament, I fell in love with Lightless and Casmodon recently. So, to Lionel, who made Casmodon, that was a really cool concept. And that's what I want to see. I want to see a lot of cool ideas coming together to create a very seamless piece of art. All right. Uh, some closing remarks before we get into the pack openings. So we have the Akasha Codex coming out on March 22nd, will be chapter 9. That one will be another Raha chapter, I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I can't remember. But I know Carl and Brad are working on it. It's a really, really great read. If you get the opportunity and want to know the lore about the game, go to the Genesis website, go to lore, and you'll find the Akasha Codex up there. And we got 8 chapters out, including the prologue. And it's been a really fun time writing it and finally getting it all on, well, I want to say on paper, but not really. So that's happening on the 22nd. Every Tuesday night at 7 p.m., Alex Miller and I sit down and we do Exploring the Libraries, where we talk about actual in-depth things for Genesis itself. Card ideas, tournaments, other takes on the game. So come join us. I don't remember what our topic is for this coming week, but we'll post it soon. Exploring the Library, really, really great show, and I have a lot of fun with it. And then you don't have to just listen to my voice. You can listen to Alex talk, and, you know, the amount of times we rib on each other. So, COVID reminder, just make sure you're listening to what your guidelines are for your province, your state, your region, wherever. You're being safe, you're being careful out there. And remember that these store owners are our front line when it comes to this industry. Be kind, be considerate, and take precautions. Don't just go places don't go to game shops just because you're bored. Make sure you're healthy, you're well, and you're going there, and you are taking care of yourself and you're taking care of the people around you. And we'll get through this soon. I'm hearing a lot of good things come out from the States, a lot of good things come out from Canada. So hopefully things get better soon. Another reminder about the roundtable happening on April 5th at 6 p.m. That is going to be, I believe it's April 5th. It should be the first Monday of every month. And we will be talking about some of the high meta level questions. I know one of the things Alex wanted to ask in the last roundtable, we didn't have the time for it, was of the old mechanics, which ones would you want to see us revisit and spend some more time working on and improving? So that will be a great topic, and there'll be other great topics for you to come and chat. And even if you don't know a lot about the game, come join the conversation anyways, and that way you can start thinking about these things in your own time and talk to me at any point. I think almost all of you, everyone who's watching, should know how to get a hold of me one way or another. And then the last thing, we have the tabletop simulator happening tonight at 7 p.m. We're going to be testing out some Future League stuff. I know we got new alterations coming out, new HE summons that came out, some tweaks on some champions, some cards that got moved around. So there's a lot of great things to come and test out. So if you're available, come tonight. All right, let's get into a pack opening. I haven't done this in a little while. I used to do these all the time. This is my wonderful Pokemon Go coaster. What I'm going to do, I'm going to open up both these packs. We're going to see what's inside. Hopefully I can... So I got an Odara pack and a Core pack, both from Rays. Hopefully it doesn't take me too much of a struggle here to have to open these packs. I know someone mentioned at one point that the Genesis packs are harder to open than other games. I'm guessing that's probably true. All right. Let's start here. we got ourselves that underworld knowledge. We got the Patreon coming out for that, and you now can tell the difference between this and the Patreon version. I don't know why it won't focus, but we'll try to get that going. All right, so Jillian missed. Wrist throw. I love a lot of the comments in Raise. I think wrist throw is definitely one of my favorite when it comes to that. Cheering off for Lightless. Telechains near the Lion Mane Rabbit. This is also a big fan favorite. We love the rabbits, don't we? Aura Transmutation, Dark Passage, Rampo. This is a card I think just underutilized, hasn't really quite found a home yet in the game. But once it does, I think it'll be a really, really great card. I'm gonna see if I can try focusing this some more. I don't know how to focus this. Maybe if I... There we go. So we got the Rampo. Why won't it focus? Alright, Colossal Land, Brawler's Momentum. And we got that tip card. And the rare, the Water Pillar. So, that's one rare. We still have another pack to go. But Water Pillar, I love the pillars. I think they're a really great addition to the game. Still trying to figure out how to make the elements a very core component and make them really solid. So I know that's something JC's been working on. That's something Alex has been proposing a lot of. So, let's see what's in this next pack. All right, I'm going to hold these a little bit more so we don't pre-spoil. So, Sidestep. Yeah, there. Sometimes it comes into focus, sometimes it doesn't. I need to work on this some more. So, this is a trial and error concept. All right, Sidestep, Fury, Martial Sentry. I love these guys, the forward 2/2s. They're definitely very useful. Library's Gate, the first idea of the traps showing up in the game. So, cool idea there. Draconian Vixen. Infernal Lashback. Actually, this was something Alex and I were talking about. Like, it would be really good in the Idris Desperation decks. So maybe this card will have a home in the future. Merciless Beatings, Dark Loa, Flame Jet. All right, getting into the uncommons here. Makara. I love these summons that do the water branding. I think they're definitely like any summon that has a trigger and does the branding at the end are definitely really solid cards. I'm sorry about the focus. I need to figure out how to make that better. If you know how to make that better, let me know, and I'll try testing out some ideas in future streams. Fork Lightning, very solid card. I love that it's swift, so that it does some additional damage there. Diabolic Roar. All right, let's see if we got an epic. So are you excited? We got ourselves Full Art Erica. So not an epic here, but definitely a fun card if you don't have Erica yet. Having the full arts are definitely a fun thing. And then our last card being the Nizu. So that's our rare for this pack. We're going to be giving out these two rares. I will be... I don't have a way to do that right now. All right. I need to find a way to give these out fairly. We'll do a question. What is... I don't want to do it for people... Like, there are people who haven't played a lot of the game, so it's hard to kind of ask questions about the game if you don't know a lot about the game. But what I'll do after this, if you are interested in winning those packs, leave a comment, and I will... do a random draw afterwards, and I'll reach out to everyone who participated. I'll put it up in the comments somewhere, and we will raffle off the prize after this, because I don't think I thought ahead enough. Sorry about that, everyone. But that was just a new idea that I wanted to put together. All right, so next week's topic, I want to talk about the MVP versus the MTP, the minimal viable product. Versus the minimal testable product. And these are things I want to look at when it comes to how do you start designing your game? What are the first steps you need to do? So I know some people who are designing games. I know some people who are also like who have been part of this process, and I've talked to them about this. So I think it's going to be a really cool topic. Come join me next week when we talk about this. That's all for now. I'll leave the stream going for a few minutes. So if you wanted to have a chance to win those 2 packs, leave a comment and I will add your name into the draw. And that's everything for this week. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next week. Bye.